Hi, I'm Sharmaine. Welcome to Curiosity Over Fear, where we have the difficult conversations about overcoming fear with courage and curiosity. So, whether you're looking to change something with your career or just everyday life, I invite you to join me on this journey to be less fearful and more daring. So, before I start my episode, I want to give a quick disclaimer. This episode isn't about bashing dads, it's about exploring what it means when someone wasn't there or wasn't emotionally available, even if they were physically present. It's about how we carry those absences, how they shape us, and how curiosity helps us break the cycle instead of blindly repeating it. So, this past weekend was Father's Day. And honestly, Father's Day has always felt like, I don't know, weird and complicated. Not because I don't believe in honoring dads, but because when I hear the word father, I don't have a clear picture. It's more like a blur. I don't get me wrong, I did grow up with a dad and he was around, but he wasn't really around until we moved to the States from the Philippines. So, back in Philippines, from what I can remember from my childhood, it mostly involved him being overseas. He was in, I believe, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and maybe other parts of the Middle East, but I can't remember exactly. And I remember when we were getting ready to move to the States, I remember being excited when he finally came home because it had been a while since I had seen him. But beyond that, I can't remember a single moment where I was genuinely excited to be around him. Our relationship is kind of non existent. Yeah, he was physically there, but emotionally, not really. And home never felt safe. Just to give a brief, very, very brief story or background on my childhood or how it looked like at home, my parents had a very tumultuous and volatile relationship. And as the eldest daughter, I became my mom's confidant, her only real ally in the house. So over time, I naturally took her side. There was always this tension, like any little thing might set off another argument. I was scared of my dad. He wasn't someone I could go to for comfort or advice. And I used to get so jealous of my friends and their dads, like my friend Kay. And for the sake of privacy, I've changed all the names mentioned here. Well, anyway, when my friend Kay bought a fixer upper house, her husband had to be away for work for a while. So her dad, he offered to fly over and help renovate while her husband was gone. And I remember thinking, would Pa ever do that for me? Has he ever gone out of his way to do something thoughtful just for me? And maybe he has, but I honestly can't remember any of it or any time. I don't even remember if he's ever given me a gift that came from him and not my mom. Like maybe Christmas gifts, but I'm pretty sure my mom picked those out. And another example of a friend that I was jealous of is my friend Aya's dad. He had this gentle, protective presence. The way he looked at her mom with such gentle, loving sweetness. Like he would randomly slow dance with her in the kitchen. It was just so romantic, something that you would see from a rom com. His presence always felt so warm and so affectionate, just soft, sweet, and supportive. And that was something I never saw between my parents. Instead, what I saw was my dad putting my mom down. He'd say demeaning, patronizing things like how she was only a high school graduate and that's why she couldn't speak English well. I remember one time we got lost and he asked her to ask for directions. She came back trying to explain but was having a hard time, and so he just tore her down. I don't think I ever saw real respect between them. And because of that, I didn't see men as safe. I internalized the belief that love is hard and painful, that being with a man means being on guard, walking on eggshells, and shrinking yourself. And when I look back at my past relationships, yeah, that story showed up over and over again. Emotionally unavailable partners, men who weren't fully present, men who subtly or not so subtly put me down. A few years ago, my dad had two heart attacks. And as we sat at the hospital, my siblings and I started talking about what parts of him we each carried. And I remember just feeling angry because the parts I felt I inherited were the ones I didn't want: the guardedness, the volatility, the discomfort with softness. I hated that. But here's the thing, so most people repeat what they learn, especially in love. It's easier, familiar, even if it hurts. And honestly, I could have done that. Actually, I was doing that. But something in me said, no, this isn't the story I want to keep living. That moment, I believe, was curiosity or fear. Because fear avoids, fear numbs, but curiosity investigates. It wants to make sense of the pain, not run from it. So I went to therapy, I did EMDR, and I started asking myself deeper questions like, why do my relationships look like this? What stories did I absorb about love? Is this who I want to keep becoming? And as I slowly healed, I realized instead of fearing that my softness made me weak, I could get curious about what true strength actually looks like. I started asking, can I be soft and strong? Can I model this kind of masculinity I wish I had seen? When you grow up not getting what you needed, fear can sound like you're on your own, you're unlovable. And honestly, that was a huge fear I remember thinking as a kid. Who would ever want to be with me? Because of my family, because of my history, because of who I am. And I'll be lying if that fear didn't creep up every so often. But when I tap into my curiosity, it says something different. It gently whispers, what would it look like to show up for myself in the way I always wanted someone else to? And that's actually something I learned, which is reparenting yourself. And that's reparenting through curiosity. It's asking, what do I need now? What would safety and love look like if I offered it to myself? I began untangling the stories I inherited. But don't get me wrong, I definitely am still working on it, so I'm not perfect. What I learned was sometimes what someone didn't give you teaches you more than what they did. Growing up without an emotionally available father taught me what not to repeat, especially when it comes to how men express love, vulnerability, and support. It made me deeply value gentle strength, emotional openness, healthy masculinity, not just in others, but in myself too. And when I say healthy masculinity, I don't mean rejecting femininity or acting like a man. I mean embracing grounded traits like strength, protection, direction, and steadiness, but doing it in a way that's not cold or rigid, in a way that's not performative or controlling. For me, it means being both nurturing and direct, receptive and responsible, emotional and action oriented. It's not either or, it's both and. An emotionally absent father can make trust feel shaky or one sided, but that taught me how intentional trust really is. I've learned to be mindful of who I let in and how I show up for others, and I've learned how to father myself. I've learned that fathering myself as a daughter means becoming the strong, steady, loving presence I needed, not the cold, not rigid, but firm, grounded, and always on your side. I get to offer myself that sense of, I got you no matter what. Because I know what it's like to feel emotionally neglected, I am now intentional about making people feel seen, held, and heard. So if Father's Day doesn't feel simple or warm for you, I see you. And I want to say this to you: you're allowed to grieve what you didn't get, you're allowed to honor who did show up, and you're allowed to become the kind of adult your younger self needed. Thank you for listening and being here with me today. What would be possible if we stopped defining fatherhood or masculinity by what's stoic, distant, or strong, and start defining it by what's safe? If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to leave me a review so that I can send you a free Curiosity Over Fear sticker. Then, after writing the review, claim your free gift by taking a screenshot and sending it to me via direct message on Instagram at Curiosity Over Fear. Thank you for joining me this week on Curiosity Over Fear. If you haven't already, subscribe so you can get a reminder to tune in every other Thursday for new episodes. And remember, always ask yourself, what would be possible if you led